I'll never forget the moment my entire world came crashing down. I was standing on my front porch, still in my pajamas, when a woman I'd never met started screaming at me. "You're a thief! I want my money back right now!" Her face was red, spit flying as she shoved her phone in my face. On the screen, an empty cardboard box with my floral logo. "I don't understand," I stammered, coffee sloshing over my mug. "You sent me nothing! I paid $200 for a 1950s cocktail dress and you sent me AR." That was 3 months ago. Now I'm in a police interrogation room, hands shaking as Detective Martinez slides a folder across the table. Inside, forum posts, complaints, angry emails, all calling me a scammer. Let me explain how I got here. I'm Caitlin. 2 years ago, I turned my grandmother's vintage collection into a thriving online business. Grandma Rose had been a fashion buyer in NYC during the 1950s 60s. When she passed, she left me everything: pristine Dior cocktails dresses, Chanel suits, YSL coats, museum quality pieces. I started in my bedroom, photographing each piece on my dress form, detailed descriptions, careful measurements, beautiful packaging with tissue paper and handwritten notes. My attention to detail became my brand. Within 6 months, I'd outgrown my bedroom. Within a year, I'd rented warehouse space and hired my best friend Maya. My Instagram hit 50,000 followers. Fashion bloggers tagged me. I was featured in Small Businesses to Watch. I was living my dream. The first complaint came on a Tuesday in July. A customer left a 1-star review. "Scam. Received empty box. Seller won't respond." I immediately checked my messages, nothing from her. I offered a refund publicly and privately. She never replied. Then it happened again and again. Within 2 weeks, 5 more complaints, all the same, empty boxes. My 5-star rating plummeted to 3.2. Sales dropped 60% overnight. Here's what made my blood run cold. Every package had been shipped through the same post office, Morrison Street, 3 blocks from my warehouse. Then the forum post started. Someone called Vintage Truth Teller posted on every vintage forum and Facebook group warning about my scam. They posted screenshots, my address, photos of my storefront. The writing style was oddly familiar. Phrases like "buyer beware" and "protect your hard-earned money." At 2 a.m., I remembered Moira's blog. Moira Hutchinson owned Moira's Vintage Treasures, a brick-and-mortar store 2 miles away. We'd met once at a business meetup. She'd been friendly, but her eyes had scanned my vintage Biba dress with something like envy. "Online selling must be so easy," she'd said, smile not reaching her eyes. No overhead, no real customer service. Now, reading her blog, I saw posts chronicling her struggling business, the death of Main Street retail, how online sellers are destroying commerce. Her most recent post, 2 days before my first complaint: "When online sellers cut corners, a consumer warning." No proof yet, but every instinct screamed Moira was behind this. Next morning, I staked out Morrison Street post office. 3 hours in my car, watching the loading dock. Then I saw her. Moira's silver Lexus pulled into the employee parking area. She walked straight to the back entrance like she owned it. A postal worker came out, handed her a manila envelope. They talked for minutes. She showed him her phone. Then she handed him cash. My hands shook as I recorded on my phone. The angle wasn't perfect, but I got footage of the exchange, of her leaving through the employee exit. I sat there another hour, mind racing. Moira was bribing a postal worker to intercept my packages, but suspicion isn't proof. In that moment, I decided I would document everything, every timestamp, screenshot, witness, piece of evidence. My grandmother used to say, "Caitlin, integrity isn't optional, it's everything." Moira was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Hit subscribe and comment what city you're watching from. This gets so much wilder. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with 3 monitors, 2 notebooks, and enough coffee to fuel an army. I created a detailed spreadsheet: customer name, order date, shipping date, tracking number, post office location, complaint date, exact wording. I cross-referenced with my shipping records and warehouse security footage, showing Maya and me boxing each item. The pattern was undeniable. Every complaint, now 12, involved Morrison Street post office only. Every package marked "delivered" with no damage reports. Every box arrived sealed with postal tape, but empty except for tissue paper. Every complaint followed within 24 hours by a vintage truth teller post. At 6 a.m., I decided to meet customers personally. Margaret Chen from Portland was hesitant. I already filed a credit card dispute. I understand, I said calmly, but I have video of me packing that dress. Something happened after it left my warehouse. Would you meet me for coffee? Long pause. Fine, but I'm bringing my husband. We met at Starbucks. Margaret arrived with her husband Tom in the box, resealed with postal tape along top and bottom seams. I recorded myself opening it, she said, showing me her phone. The video clearly showed the box arriving sealed, her cutting it open, finding nothing but tissue paper and my note. Look at this tape, Tom said, running his finger along the seam. This isn't your original tape. See how it's clear postal tape? And look, you can see where the original tape was removed. There's adhesive residue underneath. He was right. Under bright light, I could see the ghost of my original packing tape, cream-colored with my logo underneath the clear postal tape. Someone opened this and resealed it, Tom said. He was a packaging engineer, he explained. This is professionally done. Not a customer trying to scam you. This was done with the right tools and experience. I showed them my packing footage. Margaret's expression changed from anger to confusion to concern. Oh my God, she whispered. Someone really is stealing from your packages. Over the next week, I met with 4 more customers. Every box showed the same signs. Professionally removed original tape, resealed with postal tape, empty contents. I visited Moira's physical store, pretending to browse. It was struggling. Dusty displays, outdated inventory, few customers. But in the back corner, I spotted something that made my heart stop. A 1940s beaded evening bag I'd sold 3 weeks ago. I recognized it because it had a unique clasp I'd photographed extensively. The customer, Linda from Seattle, had reported receiving an empty box. Interested in that bag? Moira appeared beside me, making me jump. It's beautiful, I said carefully. Where did you source it? Estate sale, she said quickly, too quickly. I have excellent connections. I took photos discreetly and left. That night, I sent Linda the photos. Is this your bag? Her response was immediate. Yes, that's the exact one. Same scratch on the clasp. Now I had proof Moira was reselling my stolen merchandise. I filed a police report, bringing all my documentation. The officer, young, bored, barely looked at it. Sounds like a civil matter, ma'am. Maybe your packing staff is stealing? I am the packing staff, and I have video proof. File a complaint with the post office, he said, dismissing me. The post office was worse. The manager listened for 5 minutes, then cut me off. We process thousands of packages daily. If you're having issues, maybe you should reconsider your packaging methods. I left furious, but more determined. That evening, I returned to Morrison Street post office at closing time. I parked across the street with a clear view of the employee exit. At 6:47 p.m., the postal worker I'd seen with Moira, his name tag read Derek, came out carrying 2 packages. He looked around nervously, then walked to a car parked in the shadows. Moira's silver Lexus. She popped the trunk. Derek placed the packages inside. They talked for 3 minutes. She handed him an envelope. I recorded everything. The next morning, I drove to an electronics store and spent $800 on a high-quality trail camera, the kind hunters use. It had night vision, motion activation, and cloud backup. I found a spot across from Morrison Street Post Office's loading dock on public property near a utility pole. At 5 a.m., I installed the camera disguised in a weatherproof box, angled perfectly to capture the employee entrance and parking area. Everything was legal. Public property, public view, no expectation of privacy. Then I documented everything. GPS coordinates, photos of the installation, timestamp, written statement of my purpose. If this went to court, my evidence chain needed to be unbreakable. Next, I set up a test. I packaged a distinctive 1960s Poochie dress, bright swirling patterns impossible to miss, and addressed it to my friend Sarah 2 states away. I photographed every angle, weighed it 1.2 pounds with packaging, and video recorded the entire packing process with timestamps. I dropped it at Morrison Street Post Office at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, deliberately choosing Derek's shift. Then I waited. My trail camera sent alerts to my phone. At 6:23 p.m., Derek's shift ended. He walked to the loading area, looked around, then grabbed a package, my package, identifiable by the address label I'd marked with a tiny UV ink dot. He took it to the back room. At 6:35 p.m., the employee door opened. Moira walked in confidently, like she'd done it 100 times. At 6:52 p.m., she emerged carrying a shopping bag. At 6:54 p.m., Derek came out with my package, now visibly flatter, and placed it in the outgoing mail bin. I had it all on video, crystal clear, time-stamped, backed up to 3 separate cloud services. Sarah received the package 2 days later, empty except for tissue paper, resealed with postal tape. But now I had something better than suspicion. Evidence. I sent the video to a lawyer friend, Mark. He watched it twice. "This is mail fraud," he said slowly. "Federal crime, but you need more. You need to prove pattern and financial motive." So I dug deeper. Derek's Facebook was public. Recent posts showed new purchases. A 2023 Camaro, expensive dinners, designer clothes. His job as a postal worker paid maybe $45K yearly. His new lifestyle suggested double that. His Venmo was also public. I scrolled back 6 months, dozens of payments from an account called MV Intage 82. Moira's initials, and 1982 was her birth year according to her business license. Payments labeled thanks and appreciate you, ranging from $200 to $500, always a day after I dropped packages at Morrison Street. I documented everything, screenshots with timestamps, archived pages, correlation spreadsheets. Then I checked county records for Moira's business. Her sales tax filings were public. Despite her store appearing empty every time I'd visited, she reported strong revenue, $180,000 in the last quarter alone. Impossible for her struggling store, but very possible if she was reselling stolen vintage clothing. I visited her store again, this time with my phone recording in my pocket. I browsed the racks systematically. I found 4 more pieces I'd sold: a 1950s swing coat, a pair of 1960s Gucci loafers, a Hermes scarf, a beaded clutch. Every single one had been reported as an empty box delivery. I matched them with my original listing photos. Every piece identical, same condition, same minor flaws I'd documented. Moira approached. "Back again? See anything you like?" "Actually, yes." I picked up the Hermes scarf. "How much?" $250. I'd originally sold it for $180. "I'll think about it," I said, taking more photos. Outside, I called each customer who'd ordered those pieces. All confirmed empty boxes, all had been refunded. All had given up on ever finding justice. "We're about to change that," I told them. "Would you be willing to make statements if this goes to court?" Every single one agreed. Monday morning, I found a letter from Moira's lawyer: cease and desist for defamation and harassment. Apparently, someone told Moira I'd been asking questions. The letter claimed I was spreading malicious lies about her business and demanding I stop stalking her store. It threatened a lawsuit for $100,000 in damages. My hands shook as I read it, but I'd been careful. I hadn't posted anything publicly or accused her to anyone except the customers and police. Then my phone rang. Detective Martinez. "Miss Foster, we've received a complaint from Moira Hutchinson claiming you're running a scam operation. She's provided documentation, forum posts about your empty boxes, customer complaints, even photos of you stalking her store." "What? No, she's filed a formal fraud report. We need you to come in for questioning." The interview was humiliating. Martinez clearly believed Moira. He suggested my failing business had driven me to scam customers, then blame a competitor. I showed him everything: my videos, the trail camera footage, the financial records, the resold merchandise. He barely looked. "You could have staged all this. The footage doesn't clearly show theft, just conversations. And Ms. Hutchinson has business licenses for estate sale sourcing. Call the customers. They'll confirm." "Customers who receive empty boxes from your business?" He raised an eyebrow. "That actually supports Ms. Hutchinson's complaint." I left the station shaking with rage and fear. That afternoon, I got an email from a local news blogger. "Miss Foster, we're running a story about online retail fraud. Would you like to comment on allegations that you're scamming customers?" The story went live that evening. Local online boutique under investigation for fraud. It included Moira's quotes: "I've heard from so many victims. It's heartbreaking. These customers trusted her, and she betrayed that trust. Someone needed to speak up. My inbox exploded. Refund demands, threats, cancellations. My bank called. They were freezing my business account pending investigation. I couldn't pay Maya, couldn't pay warehouse rent, couldn't buy shipping supplies. My business, everything I'd built, was collapsing. That night, someone broke into my warehouse. Nothing was stolen, but the message was clear. Files dumped, inventory scattered, walls spray painted with scammer. Security footage showed a figure in a hoodie, but the face was covered. However, the parking lot camera caught something they'd missed: a silver Lexus with a partially visible license plate. Moira's plate. I filed another police report. Another board officer took notes and did nothing. I sat in my destroyed warehouse at 3 a.m., surrounded by my grandmother's precious collection scattered on the floor, and almost gave up. Almost. Then I remembered Grandma Rose's story about opening her buying office in 1952. The male buyers had tried to shut her out, spreading rumors, blocking her access to fashion houses, even sabotaging her orders. They wanted me to quit, she'd told me. But quitters don't change the world, Caitlin. Fighters do. So I documented every single thing they did, built an unbreakable case, and took it straight to the top. She'd won. The men were fired. She'd become one of the most respected buyers in New York. I pulled out my phone and called Mark, my lawyer friend. I need to hire a private investigator, I said, and I need to go on offense. The private investigator's name was Jessica, and she was worth every penny of her $5,000 retainer. Give me everything you have, she said at our first meeting. I handed her 2 binders of documentation, a thumb drive with video footage, and my spreadsheet of evidence. She spent 3 days reviewing it. You've done excellent work, she said finally. But this is bigger than you think. Let me dig into Derek's background. A week later, she called me to her office. Derek Patterson has been a postal worker for 6 years. Clean record officially. But look at this. She showed me his bank statements, obtained legally through financial investigation subpoena. Regular deposits from MV Vintage 82, that's Moira, but also deposits from 3 other accounts: Luxury, Resale LA, Trendy Thrifts, and Modern Vintage Goods, all online vintage resellers. My stomach dropped. He's doing this to other people? It gets better. I track those account names. Each one is registered to a different person, but all the registration addresses lead back to Moira's business. She pulled up screenshots. Moira's running multiple fake resale accounts. Derek intercepts packages from online sellers. Moira resells the merchandise through these accounts, and they split the profits. How many sellers has she targeted? At least 5 that I can prove. Probably more. Jessica connected me with 3 other victims. Hannah, who sold vintage band t-shirts, Marcus, who sold vintage sneakers, and Diane, who sold antique jewelry. We met at a coffee shop, and the stories were identical. Sudden waves of empty box complaints, all from Morrison Street Post Office, anonymous online attacks, businesses nearly destroyed. I lost everything, Marcus said quietly. Had to close my shop, file bankruptcy. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't prove it. Hannah was crying. I thought I was going crazy. Everyone said I was scamming people, but I swear I shipped everything. We compared documentation. Derek had been intercepting packages for at least 2 years. Moira had made an estimated $300,000 from reselling stolen merchandise. We need to go federal, Jessica said. This isn't just theft, it's organized mail fraud. That's FBI territory. She had a contact, Postal Inspector Raymond Chen, who specialized in mail fraud cases. We met with him the following Monday, all 5 victims, Jessica and me, carrying boxes of evidence. Inspector Chen was a thin, serious man in his 50s. He listened without interrupting as we presented everything: videos, financial records, testimony, merchandise matches. When we finished, he was quiet for a long moment. This is one of the most well-documented cases I've seen, he said finally. Give me 2 weeks to verify and build our case. Those 2 weeks felt like years, but Inspector Chen was thorough. He obtained warrants for Derek's financial records, phone records, and home search. He placed surveillance on both Derek and Moira. He sent marked packages, ones with hidden GPS trackers and special UV dye, through Derek's route, and he caught them. The marked package went to Derek's station. Within hours, the GPS showed it moving from the post office to Moira's store. The UV dye would be all over their hands. "We're ready," Inspector Chen called me. "Tomorrow, we execute." We gathered at the postal inspector's office at 6 a.m., all 5 victims, Jessica, and 3 federal agents watching monitors showing live feeds. Inspector Chen had placed undercover surveillance on both Derek and Moira. At 10:23 a.m., Derek intercepted a marked package, a fake vintage Hermes bag sent by an undercover agent. The tracker showed him taking it to the back room. At 10:45 a.m., Moira's Lexus pulled into the employee lot. At 11:02 a.m., she exited carrying a shopping bag. "Move in," Inspector Chen said quietly into his radio. 2 agents approached Moira in the parking lot. "Moira Hutchinson, federal agents, we need you to place the bag on the ground and put your hands where we can see them." On the monitor, we watched her face go white. Simultaneously, agents entered the post office and arrested Derek at his sorting station. The shopping bag contained the Hermes bag, still covered in UV dye. Within an hour, both were in federal custody. Search warrants were executed immediately. At Moira's store and storage unit, agents found a warehouse of stolen merchandise, racks and racks of vintage clothing, shoes, accessories. I walked through with Inspector Chen, identifying piece after piece. "This coat, I sold it 6 months ago. This dress, reported as empty box. These shoes, this bag, this scarf." The total value exceeded $100,000. At Moira's home, agents found records, spreadsheets detailing every intercepted package, every payment to Derek, every resale price. She'd kept meticulous books of her criminal enterprise. Derek's phone records showed hundreds of texts with Moira coordinating which packages to intercept based on tracking information she'd somehow obtained. In separate interrogation rooms, both were offered deals. Cooperation in exchange for reduced sentences. Derek cracked first. "She approached me 2 years ago," he said, slumped in his chair. "Said she knew I had money problems, my wife's medical bills. Offered me $500 to set aside one package, just one." He'd been making $2,000, $3,000 monthly from Moira ever since. "I knew it was wrong, but I needed the money. And she said the online sellers were putting real stores out of business anyway, so we were just leveling the playing field." Moira's interrogation was harder. She denied everything for 3 hours. Then they showed her the UV dye on her hands, the marked package in her possession, the stolen merchandise in her storage unit, Derek's testimony, the financial records she broke. "They were destroying me," she screamed. "These online sellers with their perfect Instagram photos and their fake vintage expertise. They were taking everything. My customers, my business, my livelihood. So you decided to steal from them?" I was evening the odds. They have every advantage. No rent, no utilities, no real overhead. I have a physical store, employees, real expenses. How is that fair? She admitted to the entire scheme. 2 years of intercepting packages, paying Derek to identify high-value shipments, reselling through fake accounts, even creating the vintage truth-teller persona to destroy competitors' reputations. "Those online sellers deserved it," she said bitterly. "They're parasites on real retail." The recording of her confession was played for us in Inspector Chen's office. We sat in stunned silence. "Additional charges are being filed," Chen said. "Tax evasion, she didn't report the stolen merchandise income, wire fraud for the online sales, conspiracy, obstruction for filing false police reports against Miss Foster." "What happens now?" I asked. "They'll be arraigned tomorrow. Given the evidence, I expect guilty pleas to avoid trial." He was right. Moira Hutchinson pleaded guilty to mail fraud, conspiracy, theft, tax evasion, and filing false police reports. She was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, 5 years probation, and ordered to pay $127,000 in restitution to her victims. Derek Patterson pleaded guilty to mail fraud and conspiracy. He received 18 months in prison, 3 years probation, and lost his postal job permanently. The sentencing hearing was cathartic. All 5 victims gave impact statements. "You didn't just steal merchandise," Hannah said, her voice shaking. "You stole my reputation, my livelihood, my mental health. I developed anxiety so severe I couldn't leave my house. Marcus, I lost my business, my apartment, my relationship. I declared bankruptcy at 28 years old because of you." When it was my turn, I looked directly at Moira. My grandmother built her career on integrity and quality. She taught me that business isn't about destroying your competition, it's about being so good they can't compete. You chose the opposite path. You chose to tear others down rather than build yourself up. Moira wouldn't meet my eyes. The judge's words were scathing. Ms. Hutchinson, you had every opportunity to compete fairly. Instead, you engaged in a systematic criminal enterprise that destroyed innocent people's businesses and reputations. Your actions were calculated, cruel, and entirely without remorse. The U.S. Postal Service issued a public apology. The local news ran a correction story. Local entrepreneur vindicated in federal postal fraud case. The blogger who'd written the original hit piece published a retraction and apology. My bank unfroze my accounts. My customers, the loyal ones who'd believed in me, came back. New customers appeared, drawn by the story of someone who'd fought back and won. Within 3 months, my business had recovered. Within 6 months, it was thriving beyond my previous success. I hired 2 employees, including Marcus, who'd lost his business to Moira's scheme. I expanded my warehouse and started an advocacy group, Online Sellers United, dedicated to helping small businesses fight fraud and abuse. The other victims rebuilt their businesses too. We stayed in touch, a support network born from shared trauma and shared victory. 6 months after the sentencing, I drove past Moira's former store. It was empty, a for lease sign in the window. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sad, sad that she'd thrown away everything for greed and bitterness. But I also felt something else: vindication, pride, strength. My grandmother had been right. Integrity isn't just good ethics, it's good business. The truth doesn't always win quickly, but if you fight hard enough, document everything, and refuse to give up, it does win. Today, my business is thriving. I work with incredible customers who appreciate quality and authenticity. I mentor other online sellers facing similar challenges, and every package I ship, I include a note with my grandmother's quote: "In life and in business, integrity isn't optional, it's everything." Moira wanted to destroy me. Instead, she told me that I'm stronger than I ever knew. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Have you ever dealt with a malicious competitor or business sabotage? Share your story in the comments below. I read every one. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay strong and stay honest.